Hello, good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista, either on that side of me or that side of me. Welcome to Counterparts. As always, we are here at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're joining us, thank you, because we really appreciate the time that you spend with us. It's really been a pleasure for us, right, George?
Yes, absolutely.
He's so good. Um,
I'm well trained.
you are good talking. We want to thank. We are so excited because we're going to be talking today about the artist with Annie Levin. She's going to be talking about her site, activateanartist.com. You got to check it out. She's got an amazing blog, amazing content. We are going to have such fun today. So please stick around. We'll be right back. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So, like George and we really geek out on the artist, and we because we're trying to George and I are artists, and we're trying to figure things out as we go along. We want to help a lot of people who are also artists, and Annie is activating artists. Like, to me, that's when I first heard that, I was like, oh my God, that makes so sense. And I have a story that I'm going to tell during the show today about my wife. And it's gonna be on in that. Before I knew this, it's gonna be in that realm. So we're very excited to talk about this today. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Before we bring Annie on, we have our sponsor, and I'm gonna turn it over to George so he can actually do the honors.
Thank you, sir. Well, the Counterparts Show is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family-owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Find out why Wellness Resources supplements are the top choice of health-conscious individuals around the world. Make sure you go to myvitaminresource.com and check out all the supplements that they have available. And if you put in the promo code Counterparts, you will get free shipping on your order. And on top of that, those of you who would like to support your heart, they're actually having a special 25% off of all their heart health supplements and cardio supplements. So again, myvitaminresource.com. Check them out, and I'm sure you will be glad you did. All right. So let's talk a little bit about our guest today. This is exciting, John. We're, like John said, we're always excited to talk about artists and the creative process. So today we're going to be talking to Annie Levin. She is a screenwriter, author, and co-creator of activateanartist.com. Her works include screenplays, memoirs, and children's books. Annie has created a nonprofit organization with her husband, Tab, the Perfect Day Box Foundation, with the mission to uplift, inspire, and give hope to children in need through the arts and imagination. And brighter futures is their focus. And we are absolutely honored to be talking with her and have her on the show today. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Annie Levin. Yes.
Hello.
And George, we had a little bit of a hiccup there at the end, so we're gonna maybe reread the last maybe two sentences. You kind of hiccuped. So why don't you do that?
Yeah, so basically we talked about the foundation that she started with her husband Tab, which is called the Perfect Day Box Foundation, with the mission to uplift and inspire and give hope to children in need through the arts and imagination, helping children to learn how to build their imagination in order to solve problems and create brighter futures is their focus.
Yes, good. Cool. Well, Annie, thank you so much. I also think I said Levin because I'm a dork.
Yeah, LAVEN.
Yes, you are.
LAVEN. So
Yeah.
Annie Levin.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for being here. It is awesome to have you on the show. One of the things that George and I constantly talk about is the artist, because we have a lot of artists on the show. George and I are artists, and it's always, sometimes it can be a confusing thing. There's a lot of things going on in the world sometimes that kind of pulls you away from creating.
Yeah.
And we try really hard to kind of stay focused and try to get others focused on really what the purpose is. And being an artist is really a really high purpose. So we want to thank you on. We're going to be talking a lot about that. George, like I mentioned before we started, George is organized. He likes to mention that a lot. He likes to write things down. So he has a couple of questions. We're going to start off. I'm going to turn it over to George, and then we're going to start the conversation, and we're going to have some fun.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. And by the way, if things kind of go in and out here, I'm having some internet issues today. So if anything, kind of stops or gets a little dodgy, let me know. Other than that, but again, thank you so much for being on with us. We're very, very excited. So I want to hear about your journey. I want to hear about you kind of growing up and how you got into, helping the artist and the blog and everything. So start from the beginning. Just tell us kind of, especially for those folks who are not familiar with your work, tell us, how it all started for you.
Wonderful. Well, first of all, I want to thank you both for allowing me to come on. I was so excited. I've seen your show. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my writing started with screenwriting. So my training actually was in screenwriting, and my focus was always characters, character-driven screenwriter. And really that all goes back to, I grew up in a town of 300 people. And for me, I loved it. The small town, and then the next town was a little bit bigger, and the other town was a little bit bigger. But what was beautiful about that was you really got to know people. And I think that's where I fell in love with people. Mm-hmm. And as I grew up, I found that I collected in my mind these characteristics of people. I was fascinated why some people succeeded and why some people didn't. And I never knew I was going to be a writer. I just loved people and went to college. And I think it really wasn't until after I graduated from college that I met a gentleman in California who was a screenwriter, and he introduced me to screenwriting, and I wrote Fade In and was hooked. It was just that simple. Wow. And so I was always able to draw on the ability to create characters. And again, I go back to the luxury of having a large family. I have 4 brothers, 2 sisters. I have more than 50 first cousins. So, and we're all close, I know them all. I know all their names, So a big part of my life is people. And so sliding from the screenwriting to the nonprofit, again, it's helping children, it's helping people, it's using artistry. And then we go to the blog, which is You Are an Artist. It all goes back to my love of people. And I read the definition, the second definition of artist, and I immediately knew that this was how I could help everyone. Because the second definition of artist is a person whose work shows incredible creative ability and skill, right? Wow. Exceptional creative ability and skill. This does not mean that just fine artists or artists. It means anyone who creates, right? Well, everybody creates time. Everybody creates schedules. We create every day. We create solutions. Some of us create problems, right? So that we can create solutions. And so just this idea that everyone has the potential to live the life of an artist, the freedom that an artist lives. And why does an artist live with freedom? Because they are themselves, right? When you're developing your craft as an artist, you really are tapping into you, because that's what makes you special, right? That's what you're selling as an artist, a
Exactly.
musician,
Yes.
a painter, a sculptor. But that's no different than a mom, right? Someone who's so good at being a mom. It's exceptional. And we feel it when we meet those people. They truly are. You're just in awe. My mom was an artist at being a mom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite a few people I can think of when I was growing up who I was in awe of, that there was an effortlessness to them. Not me. When I saw it in them, I was always, oh, that's special.
Wow.
When you can just be you, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so the 5 steps that I came up with to help people, all people, including artists, right? This is also something painters and musicians can also tap into. It's how we can all elevate our livingness, right? So that we can experience that freedom. And it has to do with purpose. It has to do with mastering your craft. I could go on and on and on,
Yeah.
but I'll pause.
Yes. So that's awesome. One of the things you said earlier, the definition of the artist, you see that in people, like in business, for instance. I'll see someone, I've had managers and, in jobs that I've had, they're just really good at that job. And it's almost, it's an art form that they've developed, but you look at somebody in a suit and you think, oh, well, that's not an artist, that's a businessman. But they don't realize how much create it takes to actually be a really good businessman or a good doctor or a good, whatever, and so that's that really encompasses the whole planet. We're all we all are artists, and pushing that through it has been a sort of a challenge, because I don't think people, I've had artists tell me, well, I don't know if I'm an artist.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? Or there's always this thing of wanting to be this, I want to be that thing, I'm trying to get to that thing, trying to have that thing, and not realizing that you first are an artist. And you say, I'm an artist, then you can create, and then you have that success. And it seems like it goes backwards a little bit. It's like, I want to have success, so I'm gonna do this thing so then I can be that thing. And it's like backwards.
It's backwards.
It's so crazy. But that's a big family. You're like an honorary Puerto Rican. Growing up with such a big family, and also the idea that the characters, because I'm a writer myself, and I love characters and character-driven stories. Were there a lot of characters growing up that you were like, as you're writing now, you're like, you're remembering all these characters?
Absolutely. In fact, I studied kind of loosely the craft in the beginning with regards to screenwriting. And one day I said, okay, I am going to take this seriously. I'm going to write a screenplay. Whether or not I can do it depends on this script, right? I'm going to give it up if it's no good. Well, I chose to write about my family. And I ended up, there's a competition called the Nichols Fellowship for screenwriters. They call it the most prestigious screenwriting competition. And I submitted to that competition and finished in the top 3%. I got all the way to the semifinals, which was like unbelievable. But it was, I recognized it was simply my ability to duplicate what was so lovely about these characters. I didn't make anything up. I just duplicated, right? And so I always say to myself, well, if there's anything you can do, Annie, you can duplicate.
Right.
So my father, it was just this great character. You know, he was like a 10-year-old, the joy of a 10-year-old, you know, as an adult. And so I had a lot of fun capturing, you know, him. And of course, all my brothers and sisters, they're all uniquely, well, you know, our mom and dad were wonderful. And so there's lots of different kinds of wonderful. And it was a comedy. And that was what I cut my teeth on, was family. So great question, John.
Yeah. And there's such thank you. There's such a joy in when you meet someone that just didn't lose that child, you know, that childlike, or that at least that excitement about living.
Yes.
Because life has a way of, you know, beating you down a little bit.
Yeah.
But when you meet these characters, and I've had quite a few of them, and you're just like, wow. And, you know, of course, somebody who's very serious will be like, oh, he's so immature. You know, and I'm just like, no, I'm trying to be that.
Yes.
You know, it's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, I was also very lucky because there was a lot of diversity. I mean, I grew up in a small town, but I was very active in sports and met a lot of characters that way. In fact, and it paid off. I actually played fast pitch softball in college 1 year, but I played, which was awesome. Yes. But I went on later to be hired by Coach Payton for the Saints to write a screenplay about you remember after Hurricane Katrina, they had the whole thing in the Superdome, and it was terrible. And so the Saints didn't play at home for a whole year.
Right.
And so the next season, they had a magical season. And the screenplay I wrote kind of encompassed that year, that magical year. So it was nice. I was able to take my love of sports and be able to bring my love of the culture and mix them together. So it's been a wonderful experience, you know.
I love it.
Writing.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question, because this whole concept that you talk about as far as just being the artist and being exceptional, right? Like the quote that I know that you had is, to the degree that you do anything exceptional, you are an artist, right? And it's not something I've really thought about in that way before, right? And you think about young people who they want to, you know, they think of artists, of course, they think of being the musician, the painter, or the actor, or that type of thing. And then they may grow up in a family where their parents or whatever really didn't place value on doing those things, right? They may, you know, my kid's going to be a starving artist, my kid's going to be, you know, because of course they're not thinking that way. They're thinking, oh, the artist is just a taboo type of thing. What would you say to like younger folks who are trying to find their voice in arts, but let's say their family that is not as supportive?
Well, so I have 4 sons, and what I have said to them is, well, there's always 2 sides, right? There is the practical, right? You have to be able to survive.
Right.
And then there is fine-tuning your craft, you know? So if you want to be an artist, and we're talking like music or that type of art, you really have to be willing to experience giving everything to it at the same time surviving.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
So as long as you know that that's what it's going to take, then there you go. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's that idea of, you know, people can be born with talent, but the skill level has to be developed.
Correct.
You know, there are a lot of people that are extremely talented, but just didn't really address the skill part.
Yeah.
And, you know, the suppression that some artists get, you know, younger, you know, family, I think a lot of it has to do with how the industry puts certain artists on a pedestal, you know, to such a degree that everyone else is sort of kind of down
Exactly.
here, you know, and
Yes.
but it's a very, people don't realize that there are 99.999% of the artists, we may not know their names, but they're out there, they're
Oh, yeah.
creating at a
Right.
high level,
Yes.
you know, and
Yes.
you know, what you see on the news and you know, these guys, that's like that's another thing. It's a great
Right.
thing, you know,
Right.
and it's wonderful. But you know, being an artist means that you get up and you create and you figure out how you can put food on the table while
Yes.
creating,
While creating. Right.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I always find that this is, sometimes people call me a names for saying this, but because you making an excuse,
Yeah.
nobody really cares if you are making excuses that you can't, I'm working, I can't create.
Yeah.
I'm working, I can't. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Now what? You know, we can't crank out a machine and give you more time. We
Right.
all have the same amount of time, you know. Is that something like putting something, I want to talk about your blog, but putting something like that together, what was your main purpose on it, besides obviously helping the artist? But was there a moment that you realized you were like, this is what it is, this is, I want to activate
Yeah.
artists? Like, what was that moment?
It was when I looked the word artist up in the dictionary, right?
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I cannot remember. Oh, no, that's not true. I was working on a script called The Art of Healing, right?
Mm.
And so my main character was an artist. And I was, you know, looking into this idea how artists use their art to heal, right? That sometimes they work through maybe problems they're having through their music or through their writing. And so I was working on this, and I was really having a hard time finding this character, right? Really couldn't pinpoint who this was. And I just decided to look up the word artist. And I read the second definition, and it just stopped me in my tracks. I mean, I've always felt a strong desire, because I love people, to help. And when I read that, I kind of felt like, oh my goodness, this is like a hidden jewel. Like it's been here, but nobody has seen it.
Right.
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 I didn't make up the definition, you know,
Right.
it was there. And so I was immediately hit with, I want to help people understand this. I want people to know that you can be an artist. I mean, I guess for me, the importance of artistry, and why I would like everyone to have the opportunity to experience the life of an artist, is because there is freedom and there is peace. There is effortlessness in this once you find your voice, right? George, you were asking about
Right.
kids finding your voice. I encourage everyone to find their voice, because in that, it's beautiful, right? And I want to share this beauty with everyone. I remember talking to a gentleman who had a business, and he had 200 employees, and we were just discussing this concept of being an artist. He broke down and cried when I looked at him and I said, "Oh, so you're an artist." And it was like he just, for the first time, someone acknowledged, because you had said it earlier, John, building a business is an art form. It's artistry.
Absolutely.
right? And so it's about validating you. It's about validating every individual, because once you find your voice, right? Because that's at the center of what we bring to everything that we do in our relationships, in our work. No matter where you go, there you are.
Right. Right.
Right.
You know? So
That,
Do you?
that-
yeah.
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
It's okay. I was just wondering, kind of piggybacking on that. What do you think are some ways where someone who is confused about what their voice is, what are some things they can do on their end to try to find that voice? Like, I know for me, for example, like I loved music ever since I was a kid. And there was something about music that was powerful for me. But once I actually started to play music, and I got together with John, and he introduced me to a whole new world of music when I was a kid, that I knew that this was something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And the funny thing is that for me, it was more effortless than I thought it would be. And then that's when I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? This has been inside me forever. Since I was born, I'm actually now actualizing it. I'm actually doing it. Okay. So I knew at that moment that was it. But what about folks who are conflicted, or they're confused about, and they're not sure what their voice is? What kind of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, that's true.
I always start with purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? In fact, I'm working on creating an online course to help people actually put into words their purpose, so that they can use it like it's practical, not a broad stroke about the purpose of life, but who are you? What is it that you bring to everything that you do in your life? And so if you can know you, then finding that voice is so much easier, because you know what? That voice is you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And so that's for me, you know, my first step in the 5 steps of becoming an artist. The first is accept the challenge. And part of that is committing, but it's also knowing your purpose, because it all comes from that point, and we emanate. And our voice is not just in our, like I said, it's not just in our poetry or our writing or our music. We take that same voice, and when you and John talk, you come from that same place.
Right.
Right. So I always like to say, being an athlete, a lot of times I like to correlate things to sports. So I think about golf. So when you hit the sweet spot, it's effortless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Or when you swing the bat,
Yep.
right, and you hit the sweet spot, it's effortless. When you shoot basketball, and it rolls off your tips, your fingers, it's effortless. When you are, when you know your purpose and you're operating from you, it's that sweet spot, and it's your ability to solve problems expands, right? Because nobody thinks like you. There's no one on earth who thinks like you.
Right.
There's no one. There's no one else on earth like you. Nowhere. Anywhere. Right? And so
Yeah.
I lost my train of
That's
thought.
right.
No, it's okay.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to actually also mention the gentleman that you mentioned earlier, the business. Probably the reason why he broke down and cried was because you validated a purpose that he had that he probably didn't know he had.
Didn't know
Or
he
he
had,
probably knew
right.
he had
Yeah,
it, but it
yeah.
just was never validated.
Right.
And when you did that, you know, how can you not cry? You know, it's like it's his moment that he realized, wow, you know. And I love the stories also of artists that during the last couple of years, you know, I don't want to talk about that, but the last couple of years, a lot of people were home and they realized they were artists at one point, and the workaday world got a hold of them, and they had families, and they walked away from it. But because they had this time, more guitars were sold during that
Mm,
time. A lot of
love that.
instruments, yeah, a lot of online music was being streamed, and films and things like that. So there was a lot of art in the house, in the homes. So and afterwards, now they're actually out there playing and creating more. So there's a wonderful idea of what you were saying about purpose, because you're home now. You're thinking, oh, what was my purpose at one point? It was to entertain, to make people feel good with music or with
Right.
writing or whatever,
Yeah.
and that was a wonderful thing. I love that. Now I want to talk about your blog. I'm gonna actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna just show
Mhm.
the site real quick, and hope I spelled everything right. Activateanartist.com. So please check that out, folks, because I've read quite a bit of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had one on there about how to find happiness, and the answer really may surprise you. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, and it was right. It was like, oh yeah, it was very surprising. It was very, it's weird. It's surprising and yet not surprising, because when you reach there, then you realize, oh yeah, that's where I should have been. How did I not see that? But there's
Yeah.
Mhm.
this thing that occludes us sometimes, and we don't see
Yeah.
what's right there in front of us.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about your writing and your style, and when you go into like a new blog, how do you get your motivation to write something? Is it from daily life, or is it something that you're experiencing?
It's a combination. Originally, I was introducing the 5 steps of becoming an artist, and so it was a little bit more following those steps. And as I went on, I just started to expand into the concepts of those steps, and then it became just things that inspired me.
Mm.
And it's interesting because when I would go to write a blog, I would not end until I had a realization, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
Okay.
it was wonderful. It was as wonderful for me to
Yeah,
write
yeah.
it, because the whole purpose was always to uplift, right? Is to
Right.
give a little bit of perspective. I've always said, I do not give advice. I give perspective, and
Mm.
then you can make your choices based on the perspective. And really, my perspective comes from this viewpoint of artistry, and
Right.
that life can be beautiful, and we are um, granted gifts when we are created, right? And it's not so much that we have to grow and become something or someone. We really just have to remember,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it was
Yeah.
there in the
Yep.
beginning, right?
Right.
And we kind of run into life here and there, and it's really about getting back in touch with what's already there. It goes back to the voice, right?
Yeah.
It was always there. When
Yeah.
you played the drums and you went, wow, this is it. It's because it was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is an interesting thing with George, because I'm like, I think 4 years older than George. So I was listening, I was bringing him music, and but when we got it, I was like, hey, we should start a band. We had one of that moment, and
Yeah.
I said he needs a drum set. So for his birthday, got him a drum set. His mother went. I went with them. I set it up from pictures that I saw. I didn't really know, but I set it up, and I think within like a couple of weeks, George was already playing with fills, and
Wow.
he was playing, and it was like it was already there. Like we already
Yeah.
knew that this was just a thing. He just needed the
Yeah.
instruments,
Right.
Really?
Right.
Yeah, and it was just a wonderful thing. So that's definitely true. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Do you mind if you don't have to go too deep, but can you talk a little bit about the 5 steps?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The first step is accept the challenge, which, uh, again, in any area, deciding to become a mother or a father, right? You have to consciously make the decision. Too often we just kind of,
Yeah.
get caught
Yeah.
up with it, as opposed to going, okay, I'm gonna be a mom and then therefore be responsible, right?
Right.
So you starting cause, right? You're starting in a good place to begin with. I go into purpose on that step of accepting the challenge. Then we go into step 2, which is define the rules, right? And of course, as artists, we know that we define the rules so we can break them,
Right.
right? Because that
I was like, rules. Wait a minute.
but it's important. It's so important to know the playing field, right? You have to understand the game you're playing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And the ability to differentiate comes in there.
Right.
And then the third is master your craft, which is just do it. Right. Just do it and do it and do it and do it and write and play and play. Be a good mom, be a good mom, be a good mom. Teach, form. It's the learning process, right?
Right.
And if you always go back to the earlier steps, if those are in, that step's easier, right? To master your craft, right? So it's like when my kids were young, they took gymnastics, and it was such a great example of life, because if you can't do a single flip, if you can't master that, you're never going to do a triple. Right. Because you have to, it's all about the technique. You have to master the first one. So by the time you get to master the craft, if you've followed the first 2 steps, it's enjoyable. And somebody said something to me today, a good friend of mine, Catalina, just the idea that if you're not enjoying it while you're doing it, well, you're not going to get any joy back.
Right.
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was a lovely conversation I had with her today. And then step 4 is to elevate, right? We coming into the exceptional, so we can master the craft, and some of us do, and that's good enough. My dad used to say it all the time, good enough. And that's what we need to survive, maybe, in life, But if we want to push into that higher realm, get closer to God, you could say, right? Get into that other place, we elevate, right? So we allow ourselves, and it comes naturally. I mean, honestly, if you master your craft, there is a moment where it opens up.
Yeah.
Right. And you elevate.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to be willing to. Some people, may go, this is good enough, but elevating. And then the last one is where you infuse you. So now at this point, you've found your voice, you've tapped into when you elevate, and now you just do that. And so now you're in a different place than you were 2 steps before. So I always like to use a mom, right? Or a parent. When I had my first son, Travis, I was terrified, not of him, but of being a parent, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I had my 4th son, Chase, that I finally went, okay, I think I know that I might be able to do this, right? So it was just, number of times.
Yeah. I love that. And it's such a good flow, the steps. I really love it. I love elevate because then it puts me on the same eye level with a lot of people, and I could.
Yeah, that's very rare.
So I'm really looking forward to elevating.
Don't worry, John. Get on my shoulders. You'll be good.
So I want to give just a couple of shout outs to. Unfortunately, some of the names don't come up, but somebody said, "What's up?" So Facebook sometimes doesn't give us their names, so I apologize. Brian he says, "What a cool vibe on the show. Thank you very much." Appreciate that. Thumbs up and amen, sister. From
Nice.
cool.
One
Cool.
one thing, one kind of little observation I wanted to make on that is when you talked about knowing the game,
Yeah.
and you talked about that differentiation. I think sometimes people they get caught up in that piece of it because they think, whatever it is, it could be from a mom to a musician, where they think, well, I have to be like that person. Sometimes John and I have talked about it on this show. We have to be like another show. We have to be, but then there's that part and you talk about it where you say, be yourself, because there's no one else like you.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter. And then you think about it and you say, oh, there's so many successful people in the world doing so many different things. And there are people out there who are not like anyone else.
Yeah.
But yet they're successful, right? They weren't copying they were just being themselves. And I think, people have to kind of learn how to do that more. Instead of, we even talk about the record industry, right? They wanted everyone to be exactly the same way and that type of thing. And it's like, it is kind of a trap sometimes, but like you said, finding your voice is so important in that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
each and every one of us. I mean, I've had so many wow moments, diving into this and really dissecting it and understanding it for myself, because I couldn't write about it unless I understood it. And again, it mostly goes back to my love of character development, and that's kind of backed into it a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's so many fascinating little nuggets. Like I always like to say, certainty is what confidence wants to be. And when you first look at that, it's kind of like, well, what in the world does that mean? But when you understand what certainty is, that's that calm, peaceful place, right? And then you have confidence, which is, I'm confident.
Right.
Which is a good thing. I mean, you want people to be confident.
Right.
But there is a higher plane, which is certainty. Right. I'm confident I can do it. And then I'm certain. So like I think about my husband, Tab, who plays guitar. And he's been on stage and tens of thousands of people. And he is so calm. It's like I have never seen him get nervous, but calm certainty, because he knows. In fact, when I met him, he said to me, I am who I am. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It was so simple.
Right.
And so to be able to just be you is so powerful, right? Because with confidence, you think you have to add some energy into it, be it, as opposed to the power that comes from just being certain. So I always like to say, this is the secret weapon against everything that tries to stop you, right? Knowing who you are, because if you can just be there, and it doesn't matter if somebody comes up against you and they want to stop you, right? I don't like that. Don't do that.
Right.
It used to be, it would rattle me. Oh, but there was a point where I went, well, I know who I am. I know that my intentions are good. I know that I love, and if I've upset you, okay, but I'm not gonna cower, right? So that there's this beautiful power that comes with just certainty, and that's all part of becoming an artist. And that's when you get your screenwriters who just write, songwriters who just write. They know who they are. There's, even think about it, they just do, right? It's wonderful. And so I just keep saying, we all, not just artists, but like everyday people. I don't even want to say everyday people, just us normal people. we can all do that, right?
Right.
We can all take those 5 steps and apply it to what we do in life and in our relationships with our kids, with our spouses, with our family, friends. I don't know, what other kind of relationships do we have? With God, it's just,
And it's such it feels so much more, it's going to sound cheesy, but it just feels so much more fun to try to be certain, to try to strive for certainty than it is to try to get for confidence. Because confidence seems like it's this enforceable thing where people are, well, you got to be confident. Well, now you got to kind of put on a suit or something, and you're like, but certainty is just you.
Yes.
And when you're just you, then you don't have to really put on a suit, because you are the suit. You are that.
Exactly.
And so I love that viewpoint, and also to just go back a little bit when you're talking about the rule, kind of rules, but knowing the playing field. That's another thing that George and I talk about a lot, because it seems to get demolished because there's so many different viewpoints, and everyone thinks, well, this is the way you got to do it. That's the way you got to do it. And some new person coming into an industry, whatever the industry is, they're going to be smacked around, trying to figure out, well, they said that I should do this, and they said that I should do this. You have to just understand the playing field.
Yeah.
There are a lot of players, and no one plays the same. They may be playing on the same field, but the field is massive, and they're all playing their games, and they may be doing it. Some of them may be unethical. Some of them may be doing it confused. Like a whole career just of confusion.
Yeah.
And so, but understanding that's such a huge, huge thing. So but the decision, and then understanding what you're playing, man,
and words.
Yeah, and words.
I love words.
Words.
I love words.
That's right.
As a writer, you use words, but there was a point separate from writing, more from researching, right? Because I do a lot of research. I love history, and understanding the power of words changed my life. And as you can see, like with artists, recognizing that there's more than one definition. So sometimes you talked about confusion, right? And sometimes it's simply we're using the wrong definition. Like someone says something to us and we're going, wow, okay. I thought it meant that.
That's true.
So I've made all these steps.
That's true.
But all this time I thought the advice that person gave me meant this. And
Right.
now we're way over there.
Right. There's no industry dictionary.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's like it's all over depending on the experience. It's people's experiences. They conjure up their own, experience. But yeah, words are really, really, really huge. My mom always said that. Yeah, you got your dictionary right there. There you go.
That's it. Look at that.
Yeah, my mom always said that I was really gooder with words.
I love your mom.
Yeah.
She was awesome.
Yeah, she was. So let's talk a little bit about what you're actually working on right now, and take us into like the future of your, of Activate an Artist.
Mm-hmm. I am currently working on an online course, and it's helping people put into words their purpose. So we're going all the way back to step 1, really undercutting everything. Really, if you want to be a great salesperson, you have to tap into that power. That's you, right? It's like, why is somebody going to buy from you and not from that person? Right. Well, it's most likely because you connected.
Correct.
You connected with that person. So I wrote a book, and it was the working title is The Purpose of Purpose. Am I using my hands too much? Cajun, sorry.
Or Italian.
Yes, or Italian. So the book I wrote because I just woke up one day and I actually said out loud, how can I help like the world? And I said, well, I know what my purpose is. I was at some point very fortunate to come to understand how to put it into words. So I went, okay, so how did you do that? And so I worked backwards and came up with the formula to be able to put it into words. And then I realized you can't just give someone the formula. You have to give them perspective. You have to orient them. You have to give them a little direction, right? And so the whole online course became this from this book. And you know, I am working with a wonderful woman out of New York who is a literary agent, and she has been amazing. And I have never written or thought in terms of, you know, you don't use the word marketing, you use share or whatever it is, right? But I've never worked from that perspective. I've always just written from character. Like everything I write is from this place. But she helped me shift so that I could understand how to take this concept of purpose, which is also spiritual fingerprint, right? It's that original imprint, that creation, that moment that is you. And so she has really been helping me develop this, as she always says, there's no book, Annie. I'm going, but I wrote it. She's going, no, there's no book. And I went, okay. She said, it's just you're building an idea to pitch to a company, a publishing company.
That's interesting.
And then there's the book. And I went, oh, okay. So you see, I learned that. But what I realized that in doing that, all of this work with her, that I'm like, oh, I could do this wonderful course. First, I was thinking seminar, but then, you know, people really have gotten used to doing things online. And I went, well, that's even more wonderful.
Yeah.
So I did some research on what was out there, and I thought, okay, if I just create a course that captures my blog, which is my love of people, my true, genuine love and desire to want people to be inspired and be happy and fulfilled. So if I could create this beautiful course, that would make me happy, and it would, you know, be a part of my purpose. And so, so I've written the script and created my, you know, studio. We kind of did a first run and realized we didn't know what we were doing. You know, because you realize, right? You guys have hardcore microphones there, so you need audio, right? And if you want to create this experience that's beautiful for people, you really want to take them from this place and gently invite them to this other place, right? Because I can't tell them what their purpose is. They have to accept the challenge, right? Define the rules, master. We're doing that through the course. That by the time they get to the 3 steps of defining your purpose, they want to. And their perspective has been shifted so that they can find the answer, right? Because they're the only one who knows the answer. It's like only you know what your purpose is. So that's what I've been spending probably the last 6 weeks. Just, you know, you've got to figure out how to build a platform on your, there's a lot of things to learn, right? Defining the rules. So I had to go back, you know, accept the challenge of creating this course. And then I went into the defining the rules and how do you play this game, and what kind of microphone do I need, and lighting, and, you know, I'm not 37. And so lighting becomes very important.
But it's awesome because you're actually doing the actual steps as you're creating the course.
Mhm.
And that's
Yes.
going to give you so much more, insight into helping others.
Right.
And I've done, George and I have talked about this. We've done a lot of webinars, and we've done a lot of courses, and we've done a lot of online different services. And I can say there are not many. I can't even think of one actually right now that
Hmm.
the elements that you're actually describing. So that's actually really exciting to see something like that, because I think a lot of people, they get lost out there. I mean,
Yeah.
the courses, I think a lot of them, there's a guy or a gal, and they're there and they've done some stuff, so they're gonna talk about how great they did their thing.
Hmm.
you know like, and then I was walking down the street and I ran into Martin Scorsese, and he just happened
Yeah.
to like my face, and he put me, and I'm
Yeah.
not that extreme, but I mean, they have
Yeah.
experiences that are, and nobody's gonna have. It's
Yeah.
what you were saying about going back and really breaking down what they need to actually confront, the
Yeah.
decision that they have to make.
Yeah.
I love that, and that's going to be very successful, and I'm excited about that. So, very well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, George, I'm gonna if you have a question on your notepad there, and your loose leaf.
Oh, hi,
That's me, my
George.
friend. Hey.
Well, we're at an hour, if you can believe
Oh
that.
my
It's
goodness.
unbelievable how this stuff
Yeah.
flies.
And
It's
it always
amazing.
happens because we
Yeah.
love having these conversations with amazing people, and we get lost in the conversation. I'll look up and I'll be like, oh, okay, it's an hour. But
Yeah.
let me just put the site up here again, and I'll keep it on there so people can check that out. So someone now is watching this, they're out there, they say, okay, I want to reach out to Annie and I want to ask her questions because I need some help.
Yes.
And where should they reach out to?
You go to activateanartist.com and you subscribe, and then you have the opportunity to send me a message, and I will respond to you. Be happy to respond to you, talk to you if you have any questions or want to know more about purpose. And also, it's great. Is not a word.
It's not a word.
word.
It's not.
Someone just told me that. I just said it. I heard it.
I constantly say that.
So anyway, subscribe, and that way I can send out to people when the online course is available. If people are interested as well, that way I can send them and say, hey, it's up. You can check it out.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And I think is a word. I had it on my wedding vows.
Ah,
I think that's how I started it. So Annie, thank you so much for being on the show. This is awesome. And I'd love to have you back because you are a screenwriter. I'm a filmmaker and I love writing. And just having a conversation about characters
Yes.
and that whole process would be something that I would love to dive in and have a conversation with you on that.
I
So
would love that.
that'd be fantastic. We'll talk and we'll have you back, and also when the course is out,
Yeah.
so that'd be fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us. It's
Thank
been
you
a
for having
Pleasure.
me.
Thank you.
Yes. Wonderful.
Cool. Wow.
Wow.
This is why we do this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting how deep we get in these shows, but it's like for me, it's like therapy for me too.
It really
You know
is,
what I
man.
mean? It's
and it's always different. It's we may say that we talk about these things and we break down these things, but when someone like Annie comes on, the perspectives are different. Her steps are amazing.
Right. Right.
The course is going to be amazing, and it just really it brings us to another level of understanding, and that's all we're really trying to do, is trying to increase people's level of understanding, their awareness, and just bring more happiness into the world. And
absolutely. It's funny because we've talked about movies, like, for example, in the past few shows, we've talked to directors and actors, and we talked about movies that make you think. But her blog and the things that she's writing, even for myself, I was reading it the past few days, and I was like, holy cow. And I walked away with like another concept that I didn't even think about. And that's how you know, it's like, okay, you know what, this is different, you know. So
100%.
very good stuff.
Thank you, Joe and John. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching the show. Appreciate y'all. All right. Sometimes I don't want to finish. I'm like excited. I just want to keep talking. But we are going to wrap up. Yeah. We're going to wrap up. We will see you all again next week, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can go to counterpartsshow.com and check us out live there. You could also download our app. And once George and I really, really learn how to use it, we'll be able to interact. I keep saying that. We know how to use it.
It's a good joke.
Yeah, it's just a joke. But yeah, get the app, and you can watch it right there on the app, and send us messages as well, and that'll be a lot of fun. So thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next week. George, as always, a pleasure. Thank you, Annie, for joining us. And as always,